In this video, I'm going to take a look at several different examples from Chapter 3, Section 2, Exercise 1. 3.2 is devoted to the fallacies of relevance. The test isn't going to make a distinction between the various fallacies. All of the fallacies in Chapter 5 will be fair game for the test this week. But for this video, I'm just going to take it in one chunk here. We'll do a similar video for 3.3, 3.4, so on and so forth. But again, that's not going to be the case for the test. Now, the fallacies of relevance were introduced, the concepts were introduced in a separate video. So at this point, I'm going to assume that you've already gone through that information. I think you'd agree that the concept behind each fallacy covered in 3.2 is pretty basic, pretty straightforward. Nonetheless, again, the key here is to practice. The concepts are easy. Actually identifying a particular fallacy in action is maybe a little easier said than done, but a little practice and preparation for the test, I think, will go a long way. And keep in mind that no fallacy committed is always an option, and that'll frequently be the case for the test. Now, this exercise is a little harder than the test. Here you have to come up with the fallacy, or no fallacy as the case might be, from scratch. The test is multiple choice, but one of the options will often be no fallacy. And that definitely makes it a little trickier. You'll have to take a good, close look at not only the structure of the argument, the reasoning in play, but in many cases, the actual content, what's actually being said. So let's take a look at the very first example in the text. The position open in the accounting department should be given to Frank. Why should we give it to Frank? Frank has 6 hungry children to feed, and his wife desperately needs an operation to save her eyesight. So this one pretty clearly, I think this is a real clean, straightforward example. For others, maybe you can make a case that this fallacy is being committed, but this other fallacy is also at work here. They start to overlap. That's not the case here. This one is clearly an appeal to pity. It's tugging at our heartstrings, at our emotions, making us feel bad for Frank and this situation where his wife needs eye surgery and he's got 6 hungry kids at home to feed. Now we could turn this into a good argument. Why give the open position to Frank? Because he's the most qualified, he's the most highly educated, he's got all this experience. We're not doing any of that. We're just making a straightforward appeal to pity. Unfortunately, that often occurs for Philosophy 115 at the end of the quarter. No doubt, I'll get a few students at least that make an appeal to pity. I know I'm failing this class. I know I didn't take all the tests. I know I didn't do all the discussion boards. I didn't complete all the quizzes. I took all these zeros on my assignments, but I'm just 5 credits short of graduating. I just need these 5 humanities credits and then I can transfer. So please, even though really I'm getting a D, could you at least give me a C? Well, that's not good logical reasoning. You have no evidence. You're just making an appeal to pity, which of course is fallacious. Example number 2. Erica, who takes orders at the local Taco Bell, argues in favor of increasing the minimum wage. And this one is maybe kind of subtle here, but this one is an ad hominem. And remember that there are 3 different types of ad hominems. There's ad hominem abusive, which is the most common variety. There's ad hominem tu quoque, and this one is ad hominem circumstantial. This one is circumstantial because of Erica's circumstances. Erica works at Taco Bell. She's almost certainly making minimum wage, and because of these circumstances only, she advocates in favor of raising the minimum wage, which is exactly what we would expect. Now, could Erica make a convincing argument by appealing to good solid evidence, concluding that we should therefore increase the minimum wage? Well, of course, she could appeal to evidence suggesting that job creation really is made possible not by the rich, but by consumer demand. And if we give people more money, well, demand will increase, people will buy more goods and services, and so jobs will be created, the economy will prosper, so on and so forth. But there isn't any evidence like that here. This one is based on Erica's circumstances. Of course she wants to raise the minimum wage because she herself makes minimum wage. And I'll go through these rapid fire style. That's the advantage of an online class, right? You can pause YouTube, you can rewind, you can go through it again. And if any of it is less than clear, as always, don't hesitate to send me an email. If there are other examples you'd like to go through, by all means, let me know and I can create an additional video. So example number 4, whoever thrust a knife into another person should be arrested. That certainly makes some pretty good sense. But surgeons do precisely this when operating. Therefore, surgeons should be arrested. So this one's an accident, and the name here is sort of misleading. It's not an accident in that the surgeon accidentally stabbed somebody. An accident occurs when a general rule is applied to a specific case it was never intended to cover. And that's the exact pattern of reasoning here. There's a general rule, we shouldn't stab people, but surgeons technically with their scalpel stab people, and therefore, well, surgeons should be arrested. That's the general rule, don't stab people, but it's not applicable to this specific case, a surgeon, a doctor. Now, if a doctor did this without your permission, obviously that would follow, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. So example number 6. Nietzsche's philosophy is not worth the paper it's printed on. Nietzsche was an immoral reprobate who went completely insane from syphilis before he died. Now, side note, I kind of tend to think that that's true. It's not worth the paper that it's written on. But this one clearly is an ad hominem. An ad hominem, and again, there are 3 types. We saw a circumstantial back there in number 2. This one's the most common variety, ad hominem abusive. It's nothing more than name calling. He's completely insane. He's immoral. This is third grade elementary school playground behavior. Ad hominem abusive attack occurs not when you attack the person's argument, in this case Nietzsche. We could clearly attack his actual philosophy, but it occurs when you attack the person, and that's all that's going on here. We're not attacking Nietzsche's philosophy, we're attacking the person by reducing this to name calling, which has no place, of course, in logical thinking. So that's a pretty clean example, actually. Number 6. Something is seriously wrong with high school education these days. After 10 years of decline, SAT scores are still extremely low, and high school grads are practically incapable of reading and writing. The obvious conclusion is that we should close the schools. Oops, typo, pay no attention. We should close the schools. So let's break this down. It's a longer argument, obviously, multiple sentences, multiple premises. Something is seriously wrong with high school education these days. So there's our topic sentence. This should be about what's wrong with high school education. So the second sentence, after 10 years of decline, so SAT scores are going down, 10 years. High school grads are incapable of reading and writing. So notice this is all on topic. Something's wrong with high school education, declining scores, can't read, can't write, so on and so forth. It's all on topic. And now we get to the conclusion here, and it states as much. There's a conclusion indicator for you, right? The obvious conclusion is that we should close the schools. If something's wrong, therefore we should close the schools. This one is missing the point. The argument's on track, premise 1, premise 2, scores are going down, can't read and write, therefore close the schools. That one is a little out and left field. Therefore, we should improve the quality of teacher education. Okay, I could be on board with that. Therefore, we should fully fund education. That would seem to follow from the evidence. But wait a second, therefore we should close the schools. That's missing the point. Missing the point, just as a heads up, we haven't seen an example of this, but missing the point is often confused with a red herring. For a red herring, you get your topic, okay, this is what it's about, and then it immediately changes subjects. Missing the point is similar, but rather than immediately changing course, it's on point, okay, following along nicely, and then WTF, it's out in left field there. 2 more examples and we'll call it quits. There's plenty of practice available in 3.2. Go through it, check your answers, let me know if you have questions. Number 18 in the text, 3.2 exercise 1. Haas, commandant of the Auschwitz concentration camp, confessed to having exterminated 1 million people, most of whom were Jews, in the Auschwitz gas chamber. We can only conclude that Haas was either insane or an extremely evil person. And in many ways, 18 is similar to 6. Back up there in 6, we were calling Nietzsche immoral and completely insane. Here, we're calling Haas insane, direct comparison there, or an extremely evil person. That one, number 6, is clearly an ad hominem abusive against Nietzsche. This one reeks of an ad hominem abusive, but I think actually the best answer here for 18 is no fallacy at all. If this guy really did send 1 million innocent people to the gas chambers, I think saying that he's either insane or evil or both, these two are not mutually exclusive, is a fair claim to make. And if you're not convinced about that, I highly recommend taking Philosophy 215 in the spring. Philosophy 215 is devoted to ethics. I think that's a pretty fair ethical judgment to make, that a person that does this is either insane, evil, or actually both. And the last one we'll take a look at, I know we haven't covered all the fallacies of relevance here, but this should be a pretty good start. Number 24, Dr. Morrison has argued that smoking is responsible for the majority of health problems in this country, and that every smoker who has even the slightest concern for his or her health should quit. And of course, the evidence here could be expanded. Is there good solid medical evidence suggesting that smoking is bad for your health and that you should quit? Of course, ample evidence is out there above and beyond what's mentioned here. Unfortunately, however, we must consign Dr. Morrison's argument to the trash bin. Why scrap this argument? Seems pretty good to me. Only yesterday I saw none other than Dr. Morrison himself smoking a cigar. So since he smokes, he's in no position to say that others shouldn't smoke because it's bad for their health. And notice his credentials here. Doctor, we would assume in this case, a medical doctor, although that should probably be investigated here. But smoking bad for your health, that to say the least we know is well supported. And if we should ignore all this because, well, Dr. Morrison himself smokes. This one too is an ad hominem. We saw an ad hominem circumstantial back there in number 2. We saw an ad hominem abusive there in number 6, name calling. And this one is ad hominem tu quoque. There's the fancy language. That's one heck of a name. Ad hominem tu quoque. Tu quoque meaning you also. You do it too, so you're in no position to tell me not to do it. And of course, we could respond here, but we need to attack the strength of his argument, the evidence presented, and that evidence is actually pretty darn good. So this one's an ad hominem tu quoque, an ad hominem you too.